So we're live now?
You're live now? Yep.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. For those in South Africa, apologies. I know it's an hour later there. So we're because live it's now 9 o'clock in the UK, and in stateside it's only 1300. I'm Rowena Cranmer, and I'm hosting the show again to try and bring to light and the notice of more people the plight of the white South Africans who are being subjected to genocide. According to Genocide Watch, and on the watch lists, the official watch lists, as of last year, South Africa is at stage 6, going into stage 7. The white people, to be honest, the world over, are slowly being eradicated, and it appears that the world is continuing to turn a blind eye. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce the founder and the lady who runs the South African Family Relief Project. That's Lee Oxley Dupree. Say hello, Karen. Lee.
Hi,
And then,
hi everybody. Thank
yeah.
you for having us.
Then we have Karen Smith of Radio Free South Africa over in the US. With Lee, we've got Colin and Rika Devine, Tracy and Hans Jacobs, and Rochelle and Louis de Brain. They will tell you how they are feeling about the things that are happening to them as people who grew the country. Right. When you go to South Africa, I'm asking this of Lee, is it safe to wander about or travel alone when leaving your hotel or your home?
Oh, absolutely not. You're going to have to make sure that you hire a guide or have friends that take you around, because they will definitely target you the moment you step off onto the tarmac from the plane, and your chances of not being mugged or your chances of being mugged or
Murdered.
hijacked,
Yeah.
murdered, or is considerably higher than
Than
if
it
you
used to be.
yeah.
Also, there is a spiraling violence in the country now, and there is a complete lack of proper trained police presence in the country. From what I've seen on video footage, on the news, the police presence in South Africa is now completely non-existent. And when they do bother to turn up, they're actually helping the people they're supposed to be arresting to steal stuff from crashed trucks and things like that.
Yeah, that's true. Or either if you really, really desperately need their help, you're going to have to bribe them, because they do not want to assist you. It's so frustrating to know that we have a police force that is so inept and inadequate and incapable of actually doing the jobs that they are being paid for.
Yeah.
Rowena, can I just jump in here?
Yeah, sure.
The strangest thing that nobody in the world is going to believe is that the police force in South Africa has private security guards guarding police stations at night because they are scared to be there alone on duty at night.
Oh, didums, you mean?
Paying private security to
Yeah.
guard the police stations. I've never heard
Now,
anything so pathetic in my life.
we
What?
now have, sorry, Karen and Rowena, but we
Yeah.
now are hearing of several police stations that are closing at 7, 8 o'clock at night. They are refusing to stay open during the night, and they only reopen 6 o'clock the next morning. So if anything happens during those times where they are not open,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
So, in other words,
unfortunately,
you just have to get on with it and hope.
that's it.
Now, these
Because
are people who
no
are
help is going to come.
these are trained police officers in the new police force, which from all the photographs and video footage I'm seeing are no longer white because you're not allowed to be employed as a white person. This is a fact, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, our farm project that I run currently are with house people that are not employed because they are refused employment. It's not
Yeah.
because these folks don't want to work. It's because
Mhm.
they are being prohibited from working.
Yeah, it's just absolutely appalling. So the danger of murder and the genocide that is happening to the farmers, which people are trying to push under the mat, it is still continuing, isn't it?
Oh yes, definitely. Plus, together with the land invasions that are taking place,
Yeah,
it's escalated to,
almost
it's very
DEFCON 1.
dangerous. Ah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's not a day that goes by, and I'm literally there's not a day that goes by that we do not hear from a home invasion or a farm attack that has
Yeah.
taken place.
Mostly
w-
through war daily, but the figures are astonishing, Rowena. If I'm a numbers person, so I think in numbers.
Yeah.
And by the South African government's own figures, there have
Yeah.
been over 500,000 murders in South Africa. It's not all whites, nevertheless, in the last 20 years. Now, Interpol has stepped in and said they would double that number comfortably and
Yeah.
probably more than that because the police put on your death certificate old age or illness or whatever, died from normal circumstances. And a lot of people don't even report it. So
Well, what is the use of reporting something?
murders,
Yeah.
and the world sits silent.
I mean, what is the use of actually reporting something if it's going to be listed as a natural death?
Exactly.
You know, because
You
you get shot on your farm, trying to protect your family. You end up in hospital and you die, but they won't say you died because of a gunshot wound,
Yeah.
because they invaded your farm. They will say, no, you died from an infection to the leg, for
which
example.
which was caused by the lack of staffing and the low standards that are being put for
Of
nursing
medical
staff.
care. Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, so they would rather list that than list the truth.
If
You
you
know,
Correct.
don't die at the time of the attack, then
they
you'll
list
always
normal.
die something else because you didn't die instantly. So obviously it was not the attack that killed you.
Yeah.
But that
Oh yeah,
holes,
right.
holes drilled in your legs by electric drills and were raped with
Bathed
broken
in boiling water, raped with broken bottles.
Yes. All
I've
of
heard
those
this.
had nothing to do with your death. You died 3 days later in hospital of pneumonia.
Oh,
So the figures are so skewed. You will never, the world will never know how many people have been murdered in South Africa. And
yeah.
we concentrate on the farm murders because that is a statistic that we can verify and say, okay, over 4,000 have been murdered so far.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
but
Well,
we're not looking at urban murders there
yeah.
at
Or
all.
small holdings where we
Yes,
are.
we're simply looking at farms, which is a drop in the ocean in the
Yeah.
numbers that are actually attacked and tortured to death.
That is just appalling. So, how are people feeling about the lack of the true governance by the despots who are now in power, who it would appear are part of the New World Order, who have allowed a country that was once under the control of a law abiding citizenship, which meant everyone had if they wanted? How are we feeling about that now? Because I know in 1994, at the end of apartheid, that the death rates in South Africa were nowhere near as high as they now are.
Yeah.
And that the population growth and Black average life expectancy actually showed that Africans in South Africa under apartheid were in a better than average health when compared to other Africans on the rest of the continent. I mean, it says that in 48, the average life expectancy of an African was 38 years. Now they're living to 64 to 100 years old.
And that grew actually in apartheid. This is
That's
not
yes.
post-apartheid. The
This
life
is
expectancy
prior
went
to.
up during apartheid era.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, last time we had the show, we visited briefly upon the life expectancy and deaths due to apartheid, and we know that according to the official police census, as Karen says, post-apartheid between 94 and 2000, the police report says that an average of what they are prepared to agree to is 175,000 people dying violent deaths from crime-related violence. And that's up by, I think, 80% from what it was during the 44 years of apartheid. I mean, we now look at how have the white people who worked hard at school, who went to university, which they had to pay for, where black people didn't have to pay for university. It was given to them by the state. They used to have jobs. They paid taxes. They paid for their homes. They bought food. They sheltered a maid in some cases, or their children did the work around the house. How are people who were in this situation feeling about the displacement, you know, of what has happened to them? Let's ask your guests now, Colin and Rika, Tracy and Hans and Rochelle. How did you land up in your situation?
No, Rowena, we've also got a question from the YouTube chat as well.
Yeah.
Somebody said, so Carol McDonald has said, so why doesn't the government do anything? And this is a question a lot of outsiders are asking because they don't understand what goes on, you know.
Yes.
And people don't know, and you would think what government would allow this to happen? You know, it's
a corrupt government.
Exactly, it's a common question.
A communist, Marxist, corrupt, disgusting government who have blatantly said they are going to chase all the whites into the sea. They sing a song before parliament meetings called Kill the Boer. Our president sings, bring me my machine gun. I'm going to kill the Boer. The Congress is going to fire. We're going to shoot, kill the Boer.
And bash the babies' heads. And it's horrendous that this is a government which condones and allows this. And what has really upset people who are in the know now and who have started waking up is the fact that Theresa May went over to South Africa and embarrassed not only herself by trying to dance, but she embarrassed the British nation, and she embarrassed those Africans who stood there looking at her as if to say, what drugs are you on, lady? Because of the lack of rhythm.
But she then went back to Britain. No, she assured President Ramaphosa that she is behind him.
100%.
The land expropriation.
Yes.
As long as it's done legally. Now, how do you steal something legally?
Yeah.
That was
how do you know, this is appalling. Let's ask Colin and Rika. How did you land up in your situation of being homeless? What made you homeless?
Hello, Rowena. It's Colin speaking. Yeah.
Hi, Colin.
Yeah. Look, I worked for Anglo American, and I reached my pension age of 60 years old.
Yeah.
I'm still fit. I can still work. I tried to stay on longer on the mine. They refused it because they said there's people in line that, you know, black people that must come in. Things went well for a while, and then everything just fell apart. I couldn't find work. There was no money coming in. I was one of the lucky guys. As I say, I'm a pensioner. I'm getting a government pension, one of the few lucky ones, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that.
And if it wasn't for Lee, I think my wife and myself would have been on the streets.
Yeah.
And we found a haven over here. I feel protected here, but I don't feel protected when I've got to go to town at pension day because I'm a target. I mean, I'm 63 years old. and they target you, and it's scary. It really, really is scary. As Lee said, if you see what's going on, the reports that we're getting about the farm murders and that's a daily occurrence. And
Yeah.
and
yet
actually
that doesn't come out the country.
That's right. And you're actually too scared to approach a policeman with a problem, because we're getting reports of people shooting an intruder and they are getting charged for murder. I mean,
yeah,
so
I've heard this as well.
Yeah, you're not allowed to protect your own property. And I mean, I stand the chance, if I'm going to protect the people on this property that we're staying on,
you will be had
of being committing murder because I protected the people, and that's really bad. It's scary. It's very, very scary. Our white people in South Africa now are really on the brink of extinction, if you want to call it that. I don't know what to say anymore.
Do you feel that you are being discriminated against in South Africa as a white person then?
Yes, we are being discriminated. I mean, as I say, I was a foreman for 18 years.
Yeah.
And during my foremanship on the mines in the new South Africa, when I call it that, we were getting people in that weren't even qualified, and they were given jobs.
So you were basically giving jobs to 10 people to take the place of one white person.
Exactly.
With no qualification.
Jobs were, they made jobs for them.
Yeah.
I mean, on my shaft, we had 9 engineers. You don't need 9 engineers.
Yeah.
One white engineer and the rest were black.
So you basically have one person trying to cover for all of the incompetence.
That's right. It's basically what
Oh,
happens.
gosh.
But apart from that, Colin, right, you worked for Anglo, but Anglo is now closing down their last mines.
I saw that just now. They're closing down their mines in South Africa. As they said, they cannot cope with the amount of violence in South Africa. How many more white people that are left are going to be impacted by this?
Oh, many.
Rika, you wanted to say something. This is Rika.
Yeah.
This is Rika here.
Hi, Rika.
I would just like to say something, even where we are staying.
Yeah.
I was sitting at our gate the other day with one of the small children, and he was riding on his tricycle here on the ground, and a black man was walking past our gate, and he looked at me and the child, and I could see the hatred in his eyes. You couldn't believe the hatred that you see in these blacks if you go into the street or even here where we stay. It's very, I really don't want to go to town anymore. That's why I basically stay on the back of our property, just so I don't see any black person, because I'm scared of them.
Oh my gosh. You're about the same age as me then. I'm 61. When I grew up in South Africa, I grew up in a country where there was no real apartheid, because we grew up with black children as friends. Our maids, their kids lived with us. We had them to play with. So
that's how we all grew up. Yeah. I mean, even I was born in the 70s, and I remember living on my grandfather's farm, and we used to play with the black children. We all went to, to the shops together on the donkey cart, and my grandfather used to give out their monthly food and their maize meal and their tobacco and whatever they needed. And so the myth that's around
apartheid,
South Africa and apartheid, that whites were killing the blacks in the streets and in the cities is an absolute lie.
Hello, Rowena. We've got a comment here in the chat on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's not a very. I've sent you the link on Facebook for the YouTube.
Oh, let me
chat.
go back onto Facebook quickly.
It's not a very pleasant question that's been asked, and bordering on the version on the sort of realm of being a troll. But I'm going to read it out to you because it's a good question. So, any questions worth looking at and addressing. It says here, real truths from Rainbow Nation. You forget you are actually invaders illegally settled in South Africa. South Africa is not a white nation. Look at the history. It is Dutch invaders who invaded South Africa. Since then, you Dutch invaders think you own the country. Give South Africa back to the ones who originally lived there. And
okay, Mr. Rambling Man.
Do not shoot the messenger.
Yeah, I've just seen it now. Mr. Rambling Man, do you enjoy living under a sense of indoctrination and brainwashing? Because you have believed and fed into the lie that was given to you. When South Africa was supposedly invaded by the white people, the only people who were in South Africa were the Khoi San, who were a small race of people. They were petite little people, and they were hunted to extermination
by the blacks,
by the black people who came south from the north because they were running away from their own races who were taking them as slaves.
And wiping them out in the Defokani.
We never wiped them out.
No, but
and it actually took over 100 years from the folks that settled in South Africa from the Netherlands and the Dutch companies. It took more than 100 years before they met up with the first blacks that were migrating down from the north. So
the people that the blacks were running.
The history.
Yeah. Try going into history first and actually learning history from the truth instead of believing the rewritten history that has now been made up as a complete and utter lie. You know, there is a presentation which has been made up completely and utterly from the truth. And if you guys can watch that and see the truth of what is happening, how exactly, Mr. Rambling Man, did the black people manage to propagate and actually grow under white rule?
Yeah.
When now they are not. Okay, he's just a troll. He's obviously a troll reading. He knows the truth. No, he doesn't know the truth, and he refuses to see the truth. That is really sad.
The black population grew 920% in the 40 years of apartheid. 920%.
Yeah.
So if apartheid was this bad that we were murdering people in the streets, how did that happen? How did Nelson Mandela get a university degree to become a lawyer?
Paid for by white people.
Paid for by the white taxpayer. How did the Indian fellow, I can't remember. I've got a brain gap now. The pacifist Indian guru, I cannot remember his name, but he also got his lawyer's degree in South Africa under apartheid rule. So quite honestly, it is ridiculous that people should believe any of this nonsense.
I hope he can learn, but it seems doubtful Mr. Rambling Man will learn, because Mr. Rambling. Okay, if you could watch it later, it's on. If you have a look on Rowena Cranmer on her channel, that's me. Have a look on the channel. You'll see the. You'll see it amongst the videos that I've put up. Mr. Rambling Man is really sad. By the same saying, he feels that the people who have migrated into Britain and started this interbreeding thing, which has actually been brought about by the New World Order, in order to, according to the New World Order, make a mixed race of people with lesser intelligence, where they didn't actually bargain on the fact that there are a lot of black people who are far more intelligent than many of them. And this is really sad. How do you make diversity, and how do you keep diversity? By sticking everything into a huge melting pot and making one race. What happened to diversity then? You know, that's just really sad that somebody is prepared to be so blind that they refuse point blank to learn from other people. Let's have a quick chat to Tracy and Hans and ask them how they're actually feeling about their situation, about how they feel about how they're discriminated.
Good evening, Rowena. My name is Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
And this is Hans, my husband.
Hi there.
He had a good job. He's a boilermaker by trade.
Yeah. So he went through an apprenticeship, trained up in.
He did all that. He got his red seal. He got his certificate.
Yeah.
And he can't find a job because of his skin color.
Because this is part of this BBE thing that's going.
Correct.
Yeah. Let me put it to you in a simple as possible, as short as possible.
Yeah.
I fought the war in this country. Most people of my age, I'm 47 now. We fought the war for everybody in this country.
Yeah.
I did a proper apprenticeship. I don't know if you remember the biggest steel manufacturer at that time was Iscor.
Yeah, I remember Iscor, yeah.
That's right. I did a proper 4-year apprenticeship there. 1994, before 1994, 1993, between 1993 and 1994, I owned a house. I had 2 cars, a little boat. Life was carrying on.
Which you all worked for.
Which I worked for, by the way.
Yeah, you worked for hard and you paid taxes for.
And it wasn't stolen.
So, and then, yeah, from there, everything went down. You won't believe it. It's like standards in South Africa has dropped dramatically. I mean, I look even at the school standards now, it's crazy.
Well, am I right in saying that the last time I was over in South Africa, you had to pass a 10%. If you had 10% of your questions right, you got passed.
Yes.
That's right. And I remember when I wrote matric, it was like 50%, man.
Yeah, you couldn't get, I think you got an F grade for 49%, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the thing is, and from there, everything just went backwards. I mean, if it wasn't for people like Lee and Marius who opens their gates and their hearts for people, I don't know where we're going to go to. I cry at night thinking of what's going to happen to my grandchildren if things are going on at this rate.
And if they can't do you feel that there's any future for young people in South Africa right now? And this is not saying white people, I'm talking about children in general in South Africa. Is there any future for them in the way the country's going?
No, to be honest, no, not at the rate things are going on now. Not at the rate. People is, we went through this apartheid thing so many times, and it's crazy. But I remember in apartheid, they had everything. We looked after them well. Most of the time they burned or whatever they were supplied with. But
they're still burning what they don't when they have a tantrum.
They're burning the universities. We give them free university. They're still burning university. I mean, it's crazy, man. There can't be a future for anybody in this country. This is exactly what happened in Zimbabwe. Robert Mugabe just said, oh, well, I'm taking the universities. You don't want to pay, you don't want to learn. I'll take the university. Nobody goes now. And look what happened there.
Now, you've now ended up with a country that's completely and utterly back in the bush.
That's it.
He's now sold the country off to the Chinese. And this is what's happening in South Africa. Ramaphosa is selling the country to the Chinese, just like Zuma did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I just remember that when I grew up in South Africa, it was a safe place for everyone. You could wander around in the middle of the night and nothing would happen to you.
Yeah, we used to play rugby in the street till what time of night and play ball and tennis and cricket in the middle of the night in the street, doors open.
Yeah.
No problem. Now you can't dare going out your gate anymore.
We lock our gates at 6 o'clock at night. We don't dare go anywhere after dark. It's too dangerous.
Yeah, this is just so frightening for a lot of South African people. And to have South African people having to live like this. When we were kids, I used to hitchhike. And when I hitchhiked, it was already getting dangerous. I got picked up by black people who I got such a tongue lashing for daring to hitchhike at night.
Yeah.
But if you did that today, whoa, you are just basically asking to commit suicide.
Shaking their heads.
You're
It's
senseless.
like,
Yeah.
it's no-go zone though.
Yeah, no, it's senseless. Like I say, it's fortunately we have people like Leon Marius who opens their doors and hearts. But I'm telling you now, if it wasn't for people like that, I don't know what's going to happen to this country. The way I see it, we're just going down. We're really going to end up like Zimbabwe one of these days. It won't be long.
Yeah. And I think, sadly, I've seen it since 1994 to 2004. I saw the country slide downhill very rapidly. And it's just completely destroyed what used to be an absolutely incredible country.
Yeah.
Gomad, the problem is you can't leave. People don't have the money.
No, unfortunately we don't.
You know, no one has the money. And if you can't bribe your way around the courts in South Africa, you're not going to get anywhere. And just like in the last World War, the Jews tried desperately to find a refuge. They were not given a refuge until after the World War. This is what's happening in South Africa.
Exactly.
The white people of South Africa are basically the new Jews. They're not being given any form of safety anywhere. Nobody wants them, even though they're hard workers. People from South Africa will work a 20-hour day every single day without an issue.
Yeah.
Our son was murdered in 2008. They still haven't caught who did it. He was held up under a bridge, him and his friend. They robbed his friend, and when he turned around and said, "What are you doing?" They killed my son for a cell phone.
This is 2008. Up till now, we never heard anything about the case. That's it.
Oh.
That's our police force for you, by the way.
But this is the same thing that's happening here in Britain now as well. There's a lady over here, Tracy Blackwell. Her child and 2 other boys, they were together there were 6 youngsters going to a 16th birthday party. They were walking along the pavement when this charming gentleman of the group that shall not be named, the Pieces organization, mounted the pavement and drove for nearly, I think it was 570 yards on the pavement at incredibly high speeds. He hit the one little boy so far hard that the kid went straight through. He flew about 45 feet through the air, landing in a graveyard, pronounced dead. He killed 3 of those kids. He got a 13-year sentence, and he will serve 3 of them.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that's because he's a Muslim, and he claimed he was drunk. Muslims don't drink.
Yeah, exactly.
If you are a true Muslim, you don't drink. That's true.
You know, and it's just sad. If you have a look, all the shit started, excuse me swearing, in South Africa when it wasn't even Van Riebeck who was the first to land there. It was Vasco da Gama. Was it Vasco da Gama or the other guy? I've got it in my presentation. He landed. He didn't even meet the people there when he went to exchange water, but they followed his life thing as he came past each time, and they worshipped the same cross that he put up, even though they did not know who or what they were worshipping. They treated it in the same manner of respect. That was the Khoi San.
Yeah.
The Khoi San. Sorry, carry on.
What I was trying to say is just like you said earlier on, we never took anything from them. The white people who were here before them, they all came from Shonaland long after.
Yeah.
Long afterwards. So I don't know. It's a crazy thing happening.
The Zulus worked their way down the east coast of Africa, down in towards Natal. The Xhosa worked their way down from above Zimbabwe, or what's called Zimbabwe, Rhodesia. They worked their way down from the Congo because the Muslims were actually buying slaves off the tribes. As each tribe would conquer another tribe, African people believe might is right.
That's it.
And that is
Still,
their lifestyle, has always been their lifestyle,
still,
and will always be their lifestyle unless they're prepared to actually get an education and learn to get on with other life.
Rowena, are any other African countries involved in sort of trying to stop what's happening in South Africa? I mean, is there any sort of influence from other countries
No.
between governments, or when you?
Nobody in the world, neither black countries nor white countries, are willing to even look at the problem.
And I've
They
heard
don't-
I've heard about Zimbabwe and things
few
happening in
political
Zimbabwe. So.
individuals like from Australia here and there. There are some political figures that were trying to make an effort in exposing the plight of white South Africans, but they are shot down every single time by most of the community. So it's futile because we are seen as white right wingers that are racist beyond measure, and that
Simply
is
because you want
not
to
the
live.
truth. Exactly, because we want to just live and work and provide for our families. We want to have the same rights as everybody else. Mr. Mandela said the day when he came into power, never again shall the people in South Africa be oppressed like they were.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Okay. And what's happening now?
I think the
It's
oppression
worse.
started literally the day after he stepped into power. Nelson Mandela was a terrorist.
He was.
Nothing more, nothing less. He was a terrorist. He incited hatred between races. He incited the murder of people, including his own race.
Oh,
And he refused to renounce violence.
He refused point blank when asked. Repeatedly, he was asked to publicly renounce violence, to try and help to bring peace between the people. And he refused point blank to, saying that violence was a means to an end. None of this gets out when we talk about Saint Mandela. You know, let's say a quick hello to Rochelle and Louis. Would you like to explain what happened with you two? How did you end up like you are now?
I'm a qualified coded welder.
Yeah.
I was working on a contract, so my contract was finished. So I applied for a new job, and the owner of the company was a black man. So I didn't get the job because I can't speak their language.
Yeah.
So we ended up here.
They basically lost everything because nobody's willing to employ white men anymore. And he's still young, he's still fit. He's got a little tiny family. His wife is 5 months pregnant with their second child, and these folks are really struggling. And you know, these men work so hard here. They really pull their weight, and they feel like failures because we have to work more with the men than actually with the women. A woman, us women, we all South African women, we are strong, but the men are broken because for a man not to be able to look after his family is devastating. We have to sit and give them hope and try and talk some positive, you know, positiveness into them because these men feel that they cannot look after their families and that they are failures, but they are not. This is because of a corrupt government and a system that is failing everybody.
So what did Rochelle do, Louis? Rochelle.
Hello, my name is Rochelle. I don't really have any qualifications because due to the fact that Hans and Tracy, my mother and father you just spoke to, there was never jobs, so it was a moving around the whole time, and I was from school to school every time we had to move because they had to go looking for work and everything. I actually finished school at grade 8. That is standard 6.
Oh gosh.
I don't have anything further.
So you couldn't get any further because you couldn't afford to go any further?
No. Yeah, and
Oh, this is
um
awful.
I was actually in standard 6 for 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
And I was 17 and I told my mother, I am not doing this anymore. I'm not
yeah,
gonna go to school. I'd rather start working. So I've
mhm,
been doing an odd job here and there. I was 18 when I fell pregnant with my first child.
yeah,
He's 8 years old now. My second born is 4 years and I'm pregnant with my third. And I'm
yeah.
so scared of what might happen to my children when they grow up, is if they even make it there.
People say, why do you still continue to, excuse me using the word breed?
Uh-huh.
Why did you fall pregnant again? Was it an accident? Is it too expensive to buy contraceptives?
No, it's not too expensive. I was on the implant. It's a new contraceptive they've brought out now.
Yeah.
You have it in your arm for 3 years and you cannot fall pregnant while you're on that. I was on that,
Mm,
but I told my husband that I know God will provide for my children and
exactly.
my new baby. So I
Yeah.
want to have another one and then I'm
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah.
So I know that some way or another God will provide for my children. I
Yeah.
know. But I'm
Yeah.
just scared of what might happen to my children when they grow up. Are they
Yeah.
going to be in the same situation as us now? Or are they going to be better off? I don't know.
At the
But I'm
moment,
really,
no, unless we can wake the world. This is why I want to try and carry on putting these shows together every couple of months, because we have to try and wake the world to realize that white people, not only in South Africa, but all over, are being impacted slowly as they are trying to do a genocide against white people.
You know, people don't
We have,
understand. You know what? People
yeah,
don't understand out there is these people have a right to have families.
you
Yes,
have a
some
right to a
families are
family,
poor.
you
Why
have a
is it
right to live.
okay? Exactly. Why is it okay for everybody else to have children but they don't?
Yeah,
You know, you 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 hear of our farmers being murdered, and home invasions, and now they're not even allowed to have children. So the population is going to diminish even more,
yeah,
when they stop having children completely. What are we going to be left with? What are we going to be left with? No generation whatsoever.
The norm is these days, their young black girls get subsidized by the government.
to
So
fall
they
pregnant.
unmarried, they have babies. Some of them have got 3 children, and the
4,
government
5.
4, 5, and they're
Yeah.
getting paid. They just apply for it and they get it. The white people are not getting what they need.
Subsidies for having
Exactly.
children.
I think I read it on one of Lee's posts where somebody was saying the orphanages that have any white children and don't get subsidized by the government
Nope,
either.
They don't.
they
It's
don't.
true.
Our organization will not get any funding because I do not give to more than 75% black. I cannot go to the nearest grocer and ask, please, can you give us your clothes to sell by date goods? They would
Yeah,
rather throw it in the dustbin and have it rot than give it to my organization, to our
yeah.
people. Why?
There are
Because they are
non-indigenous.
white. And these children that are born were not born in apartheid. They were born in a free and fair rainbow nation, as everybody calls it. But they don't have the right to live and work and survive and go to school. Their rights and their culture and their religion is being taken away from them.
Yeah. It is so frightening. And I really wish people would help to get this knowledge out to other people, because only by people. There is a government in South Africa, as if you want to call it a government, Shirley, but they're the type that will climb on the desks and have a chair fight. I don't know if you've ever seen these fights on YouTube or on
Yes.
Facebook, where all these people are getting up and pounding on each other. That's what they call normal government.
Well, that's the normal today for us, because the government is an absolute joke. We have a TV station that shows the parliament every day.
Yeah.
It's called a what do you call it, a comedy show,
Yeah.
because you laugh and you cry more than anything else.
China is slowly putting its feelers out into Africa in general. They've literally, South China has literally bought Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, or whatever they'll change the name to.
Well.
Tell me, do you honestly believe that China is going to listen when the black people demand the land they sold to them back?
No, they're not.
China will laugh at them.
Well,
and we have here, sorry.
The Chinese have received permission in South Africa. They now have 13 police stations manned by the Chinese for the Chinese. They have also lent billions to Eskom. Now, I read on Friday, I think, that these payments have been delayed because China is in some financial difficulty of its own. But the contract states that if they cannot pay the interest on that loan, then the Chinese will take over Eskom, which means they take over the entire power grid for the whole of South Africa. Right. So they are not slowly encroaching on South Africa. They are bought and paid for South Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, cities are being built for them.
Yeah. Peter says, says, we've been giving aid to South Africa for many, many years. Yes. The UK has been giving over 17.8 million every single year to South Africa. That money every single year went straight into Zuma's bank account, and he used it to build up his little
kingdom.
His little inside kingdom.
Yeah.
But yet, you know what? We see posters all over when you go to the clinic. US aid funding and UK aid funding, and it's coming into South Africa and whatnot. Posters all over for AIDS medications and that. And then you see the patients standing outside of the clinics who do have AIDS in rows and rows and rows, only to be turned away because there are no ARV drugs, but they are funding them specifically for those drugs. There is nothing. I have to take these women, and now I've been there myself. I have taken women to the clinic to have contraception, only to be told, oh no, sorry, there's nothing. We can only give you a Panado, which is a headache tablet. And that's the generic. That is it. When a child gets ill, we have to pay for it privately, because there's no ways you're going to take a child to a clinic. They do not have any medications. Then you have to go to the hospital, because now the child is so serious, you can't take it to the clinic anymore. The clinic has nothing. So you end up spending nearly 2 days at the hospital trying to get to see a doctor, which you only see a nurse for, and she decides whether your child is sick enough to get medications or not.
Shirley says, Shirley's asking, do you have health services in South Africa?
No.
What is that? What is that? Can you eat it? You can't call it health services. It's death services. Because lo and behold, you end up in one of these state hospitals. You have to take your own mattress. You have to make sure that your family brings water for you, and your meals and blankets, and sometimes even medication, and go and bath you and clean you, because the staff is non-existent. There are hardly enough doctors to go around. So it's like we're living in the dark ages. We are turning more to homeopathic types of medicine to cure children and the people that do get sick, or pay privately, which is also very difficult, because I mean, where do you get the money from?
Yeah, I can. Well, when you haven't got any money coming in, how are you supposed to have money?
Exactly. I feel so helpless when I've got a sick child or a sick mum or a sick person, yeah, and I cannot help them.
What if you need an operation? Well, one, you've got to take your own mattress in.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to take your own blankets in as well in that case.
What? And de-louse and de-fleeing stuff as well.
How many white people in South Africa now?
How many white people?
Yeah, are left in South Africa now?
Well, the number was 4.5 million, but by their own figures, 1 million have left, and the murders and etc. So now I'm assuming that even more than 1 million have left. So I'm considering that there can't be more than 3.25 million whites,
Yeah.
and the population is about 70 million, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have around 55 million black South Africans, and then we have an additional plus minus between 25 to 30 million illegal in South Africa. So, yeah.
So I wonder who's the breeders.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. You ask who is the one doing the breeding.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But the whole world feels so sorry for these little black children that are being made posters of
poster kids,
naked little black children sitting in the dust. But nobody spares a thought for these white children who has done absolutely nothing to deserve the treatment that they are getting.
You know, it's so sad to see what is happening to a country that actually had plenty for everyone, which has now become a country with nothing for anyone. To have a country that has blackouts and load shedding. I mean, come on, in this day and age, you have load shedding?
And black unemployment is over 50%. Black unemployment. So can you imagine those entire dispossessed, unemployed youths? That is why we have all these burnings and riots, and
they get angry.
Thick axes.
And I don't understand how on earth they are going, because not all white South Africans own property.
No.
Many people have rented or sold or whatever the case may be. So the few whites that do own property still in South Africa that is left, how are they going to give that to 55 million blacks? Please pray tell. I do not understand how the equations work. I don't get it. Somewhere, something's got to give and fail.
Because of the 10% passing rate in the school, that's why they can't do any swaps.
You know, it's yes, now I'd say I don't know that are there any white nurses left in South Africa?
Well, very, very few. I think that's an endangered species at the moment, because most nurses are looking at private home care, and they are leaving the country in droves because they are getting better employment overseas. Nurses are a very highly sought after, and so they are leaving. So yeah, we're losing our
you're losing the
qualified to other countries.
It really is sad, and they are needing help here. I'm going to paste up the please donate at, there we go, sorry, I'm just putting up it doesn't want to let me put the whole sentence.
I do have another couple, Tyron and Miranda. That's yeah, they've got 3 little boys.
Hello, you two.
We had to go and rescue them because Tyron worked in a factory and he lost his job and just could not find a job anymore. Their little boys are 7, 3, and 1 year and 5 months. So you know, it's devastating for them not being able to look after their little boys, and they are the cutest little things. And you know, Tyron was so down the other day and he was crying, and it breaks my heart to see him so sad and feel so inadequate, not being able to look after his
own family. Because I know that you put a post up about a lady, she's I think pregnant with the 5th child, and there were some really vicious comments about her, and I felt so sorry for her. And I just try to point out the fact that trying to keep on contraceptives is not the way to go, and trying to keep on affording contraceptives is also very expensive.
Yes, because if you go to the clinic, like I said, they don't have the contraceptives always.
Yeah.
And I've been in that predicament myself, where I've had to take the ladies to the clinic and they were turned away. And you can see that the women are angry and they are devastated because they know that they are struggling and that they cannot find, you know, they don't want another baby, but they are turned away. So what must we do?
If you, I mean,
Do
and I think,
buy contraception or do I buy food for these folks?
yeah,
You know,
and therefore food is the better bet.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle.
Because I mean, something that nobody should be having to do nowadays is to consider an abortion. That's a backstreet abortion. We are now supposed to be in the 21st century, not back in the 50s when women were doing it.
Yeah, but for the most part, I'm sure you do get people that go for abortions, but for the most part, our South Africans, especially amongst the Afrikaans community, they are staunch Christians. They do not believe, their faith does not believe in abortion. So they feel that if God blessed you with a child, who are you to kill it, you know?
Exactly,
So, abortion is still frowned upon in South Africa, even though it does happen among the Christian community. They are very, very strict with their faith with regards to that.
Yeah. What else did I want to ask? We've already asked that. So let's discuss how the rabid left are discrediting people. They're discrediting people who are trying to assist and help the many displaced people who are suffering because of the growing white genocide in South Africa. Lee, are you finding that the left are attacking you?
Definitely. Just last week, some group posted a nasty video of me discrediting me because I dare to say that my personal figure is around 1 million white South Africans are living below the breadline. And I'm not only talking about the camps. I'm talking about people living in the back of people's houses, in tents, under bridges, in the bush, in caravan parks, in shelters, in camps. There are so many families that where the grandma and grandpa has to take in, the children and the grandchildren back into their houses just to survive, all of them. So I still stand by my figure. I'm being ridiculed in the media, but I don't care. I stand by what I say because I work in these camps. I see families struggling and suffering every single day, and the true figure will never come out. They will only. It's same with with the murders. They will only focus on farm murders. They will not focus on the cities and the small holdings and all the other areas. because they don't want the truth to come out.
Do you feel that Islam is having an impact in South Africa now?
I think yes. I don't know much about it. I'm presuming that it does. For the most part, I don't. I feel that the blacks and their belief system is a big danger to us at the moment. Islam, I am not too sure of. I know that it is in our country, and they are.
Lee, we've lived in harmony with them forever. The Cape Malays are generally Islamic.
Islam, yeah.
The mosque. And
Yeah.
we've lived in harmony with them
They've
forever.
never really
clash.
Made no, not that I know of. So,
No,
because they're still a minority.
yeah, it's they're another minority because they're the Cape Coloureds. So
Yeah.
the Cape
Yeah.
Coloureds are also a minority, but the danger to everybody is the ancestor worship of the blacks themselves, because it evolves into violence.
Yeah.
And using body parts, especially white baby body parts, for the muti that the witch doctors made, etc.
Yeah.
So in that regard, their religion, although they call themselves a Christian country, that duality of worshipping God and the ancestors is of more danger to whites than Islam is, I think.
And what kind of government believes that if you rape a newborn baby, you can cure AIDS?
Be cured of AIDS.
Yeah, you will get cured of AIDS by raping a newborn white baby.
The same as the president saying that if you go and shower after having sex with an AIDS person, you will never catch it. So
yeah.
That's the mentality that we live with.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other guys are saying, yeah, just eat a lot of beetroot.
Yes, beetroot, garlic, and lemon. That's it.
Yeah.
I know that.
Make yourself a lovely salsa, if you will be cured.
Yeah. Something else I read, and was really funny, was if you have sex and you're on the bottom, you won't get a heart attack. It's having sex doggy style that gives you heart attacks.
Yes, that was one of the South African politicians, and
yeah.
the one where when the blacks win in these elections, which they have, but it was Blackland first, said when they win, they're going to get rid of all the farmers because they're just going to plant, plenty rice and beef.
Yes, you can get it from the supermarket.
Yeah, they said that. I said he's planted beef.
They're going to plant beef.
The Minister of Water Affairs also said, please stop using the water from the dams. Use the water from the geyser to save water.
Seriously, the things these people come out with.
Yeah, and they're in charge.
These are the people, this is what we have running the so-called government of a country.
Yep.
A people who believe that food comes from the supermarket, not from the farm.
Agriculture who said that. The Minister of Agriculture said they don't need farmers because food comes from ShopRite, Pick and Pan Checkers, which are the Walmarts of the world.
Yeah.
They're actually right, because China we are importing more food from China than we ever did. So yeah, I mean, we're not producing as much anymore. We're not exporting. We used to export more than we import. Well, it's changed completely. Dana 300 and whatever degree turn. We are importing more than we export at the moment.
The farmers aren't even planting this year because of
because why?
Why are they going to debt at the bank?
Exactly.
No, you can't blame the Dutch indigenous.
They are in fear of their land being taken, and even if you don't think about the Land Expropriation Act that's supposed to be legal, the illegal farm invasions that are taking place. We've got a farmer not far from us. He wanted to sell his farm, couldn't get it sold, got invaded. He got a protection order or an eviction order to get them out. The police are too scared to go and evict the people. They get the red ants in to evict the people, and 2 weeks later, the folks are back putting up shacks. There's even now a little shack office. It says office, come and buy a piece of land, 5,000 rand.
Yeah. So
it's not their land to sell in the first place.
Why
and
would
it's
anybody plant? Why? So you for Zimbabwe style starvation.
Where is all the reserves gone that Eskom had, the electricity company in South Africa? Where's all that?
That went out with the lawsuit.
We managed.
My people are saying you must go and ask Jan van Riebeeck about that.
What? He took the electricity with him?
Yeah,
oh,
he
okay.
did.
Everything's Jan van Riebeeck's fault. Everything.
No, all this, the coal, if you look at it, Rowena, the top 5 farms on the expropriation list are on huge reserves of coal.
And they will just be turned into...
That is being sold to the Chinese.
Who are then opening mines.
Trucks and trucks are being loaded onto ships.
Yes.
And it's being exported to China. That's it.
Yet there's no coal for Eskom.
Yet I read the other day as well, whether this is true or not, they want the banks now to fund.
They do.
Yes.
They're expecting the banks to fund keeping Eskom going.
Yes.
When all the money has been stolen.
Barclays pulled out of South Africa.
Yes.
Because they saw this coming.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the big banks
nationalize every single thing.
In other words, become a completely socialist country, just like Venezuela, and have the same shit that they have in Venezuela, where the poor and the elite, there are no middle class.
There's no middle class.
What about the water? When I was there, even in the middle of a drought, we had water. People would take more care of watering the garden, and that they would use recycled water to water the garden, to wash the car, but there was never a lack of water. So what's happened to the water? Why are the diamond mines in South Africa not working anymore when they were lucrative and supported many?
But we have had severe droughts the last few years, so that has impacted farm agriculture, whether you have livestock and the dam. We've really struggled with severe drought. So many of these farmers have lost absolutely everything because of the drought.
But that's also
the last 5 years that it's been so bad.
It's also Apartheid's fault, according to the Minister of Water Affairs, because we built the dams too big. And so they fill up too slowly. If we built more smaller dams, then we wouldn't have
Then we would have more water. That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's Apartheid's fault. Everything is Apartheid's fault.
Yeah.
The fact that we have got tons and tons of water flowing into the sea. We've got raw sewage flowing into the sea, into the dams, everything. That doesn't feature in any of these plans. And the fact that the population has exploded again, as you say, with about 25 to 30 million illegals, you add that to the population, it's not equipped to deal with it.
What about the recent voting?
Oh,
back in the day,
that's an absolute joke.
Back when we voted in South Africa, voting was one day. You voted on the day, and that night, all over the country, people counted the votes. You didn't have to take a week to vote. Why is voting taking so long now?
Well, the
10% pass rate.
10% pass rate.
Yeah,
They can't pass 3.
they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if
Um,
you've seen the video of Zuma trying to read numbers. If you've seen that, you will understand why it takes so.
why we say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, to us, it's laughable. We knew that the ANC was going to win no matter what.
Yeah.
There were
So
a
the
few
ANC
surprises, like the Vryheidsfront Plus, who gained a lot of votes. And but that was basically it. But the broad consensus amongst white South Africans for us that are in the situation that we are in is that it's a total farce.
your vote
The
doesn't
IEC
matter.
No, it doesn't. Where is it going to matter? We are outnumbered by millions and millions. Where is it going to matter?
Even the opposition is starting to agree with the government. So.
Exactly.
Why are celebrities not prepared to stand up against this genocide?
We do have celebrities that are prepared to stand up, like Steve Hofmeyer and,
Yeah.
and several other people. But they are being made out to be racist and far.
Oh, someone's echoing back. Are you watching on YouTube? Because you need to switch the sound on YouTube off.
That was me, Rowena.
Ah.
It should be okay now, though.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That was like a no echoing still. Does anybody want to join us on chat and ask some questions? Yeah, if you'd like to join on chat and ask questions of our guests, please do so. Let me just, Jason. I definitely got my sound off on YouTube. Don't know why it's echoing back like that. There we are. It seems to have gone now. Okay. Because what I see in South Africa with regards to the elections is the fact that they are supposedly putting a mark on people's fingers, on the fingernail. That means you can't vote again anywhere else. But I'm seeing people going elsewhere, washing it off and voting again and again. So obviously having this so-called indelible ink on your finger is not actually working.
But
No, it's not.
Even if it did, what about the boxes and boxes and boxes of voting?
Of open votes.
Yes,
The
that are
police actually
all over the country.
The police actually caught a guy with a stack of voting paper sitting at a table outside a voting station, marking.
Yeah.
Did you see the video? And the
Yes.
police are standing there. It's unfreaking believable that these votes are and now the poor journalist that exposed the double voting or the triple voting thing.
He's going to jail for doing it.
He's gonna go to jail.
Yeah.
Even though he made the vote null and void basically.
Yes.
But
It's
still,
positive vote paper.
when he's exposing it, he's put his life in danger.
Yeah, he is going to jail. And did you see the other one that's going to jail? A guy was trying to invade his property and he fried on the guy's electric fence.
Sorry.
The guy who
Yes,
owns
I
the
saw
fence,
that. I saw that.
yeah, the guy who owns
voltage
the
was-
fence is up for murder. He's been charged
Yes.
with murder.
And now they're saying that the voltage was too high. You're not allowed to have the voltage that's so high that can kill people. So
You have
what
the
is
voltage that
electric
high.
fence there for?
Don't you have the voltage that high because of wild animals who can take a bigger charge?
Well, I'm not sure why they have it that high, but nevertheless, why is he charged with murder? What about the guy who was trying to break through the electric fence into his property?
Yeah. Oh no,
It
that you're
comes
supposed
down
to
to the
welcome
same
them in.
thing. It comes down to the same thing. We do not have any rights.
Yeah. You mean you're not supposed to have any way to protect yourself. You need to invite these guys in and offer them a 7-course meal and then ask if they would like to rape you before they kill you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely disgusting, really. I mean, and that one thing of that little girl, she was 9 a couple of years back.
Marius and I went and McCormick was the surname of the grandfather and the father. We went and planted their crosses on the hill for them on behalf of the family. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. I will never, as long as I live, forget the sound of all those steel crosses being hit into the ground.
Oh gosh.
You have to be there to really feel the absolute hurt and the torture that poor people had to go through, and especially the 9-year-old little girl. How horrifying.
Yeah. Anna's asking, why are the white people in South Africa not fleeing the country?
Where are we going to flee to?
When nobody wants you.
No. Do you know that the visa systems has gotten so ridiculous? Okay. Now I live, one of these folks, they live in a camp. You have to prove that you are gainfully employed for at least a year, 2 years, that you have savings in your bank account, that you have ties to South Africa. You have to prove that you can come back. You have to prove your proof of residence. In other words, your electric bill, your car insurance, your whatever. You have to basically just stop, before you give out your entire lineage, before they will allow you to even apply for a visa. And then you usually get turned down and you lose that application fee, which is thousands of rands. So no country is willing to
Why
offer
don't
us
you fight?
refugee status or sorry?
Fight. Okay,
Why
so
don't the white people fight?
Firstly, they were disarmed, and secondly, how do you take of that 3 odd million whites? A lot of them are elderly and children. So you maybe have 1.5 fighting age people, and with what are you going to fight 70 million other people? With what firearms? They took them away, and those that do have them are now having them taken away. So they're doing the final disarmament of whites now.
Surely, if we are having to believe what we are told by the government, does that not construe or come across as indoctrination? You will believe what you are told, even if it is a lie.
Yes.
This is the rewriting of history.
Yes.
Well, you know what? The entire world, okay, wanted to see this beautiful rainbow nation and believed everything that was told to them. And everybody voted for sanctions against South Africa so that we would relinquish power and give the power over to the ANC. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted this country to be a free and fair country. Nobody wants to be wrong. Nobody wants to. Oops, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have put the black people in power.
But we also made a mistake by having that word apartheid brought into public law. We could have done whatever we liked as long as we had not had the word apartheid active.
That's true. That's true.
In America, they wiped out and have killed millions upon millions of the Indian people, the Red Indians. In Australia, they have literally wiped out the Aborigines. In New Zealand, they have desecrated and wiped out many of the Maori. So it seems that it's okay.
As long as you don't have a word to describe it.
Yeah, as long as you do not use a word to describe the apartheid. Apartheid was originally brought into being because they wanted to try and keep 19 different tribes separate from each other and keep them separate with their own identities. All that taken away. Now they have no culture because they're just being chucked into a melting pot where everyone hates everyone. And the people in the middle are the few white South Africans who are left in the country, who cannot afford to get out because the rand exchange rate with any other currency in a Western country is so bad.
When in 1994, Karen, I think I stand corrected, it was 1 rand to the dollar, wasn't it? Or 9?
Yeah.
Okay, now we are sitting at what, 14, close to 13 rand something to the dollar?
And to the pound, it's about 20 rand to a pound.
Exactly. So with whatever we have that we can sell, okay, if we could leave, what are we going to have left?
How are you supposed to sell a land or that somebody else knows is going to be expropriated and taken by the black people?
Exactly.
Because a third of the existing commercial farms in South Africa is on, there are 30,000 farms, 20,000 of them are already on the market, which they cannot sell. So the situation is desperate. Nobody is going to buy. Nobody, because they know tomorrow they can knock on your door and say, okay, pack your suitcase and go, because that's literally what you're going to be allowed to take with you. Because it doesn't apply only to farms. It applies to your house, your furniture, your commercial property, your intellectual property, your car, everything you own can be taken under that law. So they can knock on your door and say, go now, and you have to go.
And friends of ours have struggled to sell their property because whites are not buying property because they know that our time is limited. Okay, so they have to sell to black people, and the black person comes looks at the house and says, "Oh, it's so beautiful." But you're gonna have to lower the price because this is actually my land. That you are selling back to me. So you never get the actual price that the property is worth because
he wants his land back.
Yeah, he wants his land back.
Yeah, he's claiming the land belonged to him in the first place.
Yeah.
When, excuse me, but no matter where you come from.
Yeah, they're selling for much, much less than what the property is actually valued at. Rika wants to say something.
I would just like to say my parents are 74 and 75, and they've owned their house in Kimberley for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 months, the municipality just came. The guy stood outside in the street and he said, okay, he guessed my parents' house is worth 1.2 million rand. Now, that's not the value of their property that was done by an estate agent.
Yeah.
So now my parents have to pay more for their water than they used to. Now, my father used to work for the mines for 32 years, and he was a foreman for I don't know how many years. So he made plans for his retirement. But the thing in South Africa has gotten so bad that they are battling to survive, and my father at 75 still has to work to
provide for him and his little one.
Yeah, that's how bad things in South Africa has gotten. Even the older people that provided for their old age, they cannot live anymore.
I was laughing the other day because somebody said in overseas, bread costs 13 rand or 14 rand. it's laughable. We are paying 17 to 18 rand for a loaf of bread. And if you are lucky to be on government aid or government pension, Colin, how much is it? It's 1,000 what? Okay, rent. If you had to rent a place for you and Rika, we're looking at about 4 to 5 grand. So, and a loaf of bread is nearly 20 rand. How on earth are these people supposed to survive?
I mean, whilst if you translate that, 20 rand for a loaf of bread, that's a pound. Now, it might not sound much to a person who is earning pounds, but when you look at what you're earning when you're earning the same, if you're earning 300 rand or you're earning 300 pounds and you take it on a one-to-one,
Mm-hmm.
you're paying 20 pounds for a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And how much for a bag of potatoes? Leah nearly fainted when I saw that the other day.
95, between 85 and 95 rand. It's 100, nearly 100 rand a bag.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. I can't.
No, you must know. We have 19 people here, okay, children included. So one bag of potatoes, you use it twice. Twice, if you are lucky.
That's shocking.
You know, when you're taking something at a one-to-one basis, because if you're earning 2,000 pounds a month here, you're earning 2,000 rand a month in South Africa.
Yeah.
So with the same amount of money, you are having to try and do the same thing when things are costing 20 times more. This is exactly what has happened in Venezuela. And Venezuela is in deep shit. This is what Jeremy Corbyn wants for Britain.
I mean, we are nearing the stage where we're going to have to pay. We are borderlining. I think the petrol price is going to go up again next month. We are borderlining 17 rand a litre. 17 rand a litre. We cannot afford to go and pick up donations anymore of clothing and that. We can't. We just can't. Which means that we are basically stuck. We are stuck.
You're done for.
Because,
you are done for, Lee.
Yeah. I mean,
so you'll be back onto hoping to try and find yourself a donkey and a cart to be able to travel around.
Exactly. Actually, I've been looking for a donkey. I've been looking to buy a donkey and get some wood. The men know how to make a donkey cart, and I'm willing to take the people to the nearest shop in a donkey cart because that is definitely where we are heading.
I mean, come on, this is the 21st century. We're not supposed to be going backward in how we travel. We're supposed to be going forward. And yet in South Africa, we are sliding rapidly back into the dark ages. With all these charities who say donate to us, are using 80% of the money that is donated to them for their little holidays and their own pays first.
Yeah, for their salaries.
Yeah.
Leah and them don't get a salary. They do not take 1 penny for themselves. They pay the petrol for the vehicle, and that's it.
And the parts, because our bakkie, I don't know what you call it in America. They call it a truck. I don't know what they call it in England, but
a pickup van.
A pickup works darn hard because it's taking children to school, it's taking people to the clinic, it's going to fetch donations up and down. Then we have to go and fetch feed. It's up and down all the time, and it doesn't run on water. And it broke down the other day, and trying to find money that you're supposed to use for food to just fix the vehicle, because we only have one working vehicle here, except for Colin's little beaten up old car. If we don't have that, we are going to have absolutely nothing.
The world through is coming up against anyone who's a Christian. They are burning churches. They are burning people, killing people all over Africa, all over the world, are being murdered simply for being Christian. That's a whole other show, is to the pogrom that is being practiced against Christianity. because the new world order wants a controllable ideology. And that's what Islam is. And that's why the Pope is sucking up so much. He wants to make a merge between Islam
one world religion. He just signed
yeah.
that.
He signed the one world religion order into place.
Yeah.
You know, it's so scary. We feel as white South Africans that with the invasion that's taking place in Europe, and now with Mexico and these other countries that are streaming into America, what chance do we as a minority group in Africa have? Absolutely nothing. Everybody's focused on the migration and the invasion. Nobody's listening to us. Nobody's listening to our plea. Nobody cares that children and women are being brutally murdered and tortured, who are white and who's a minority. We deserve it.
And this is what the world goes about saying. How can anybody say that we are responsible for what our forebears did? We weren't born yet.
Exactly.
And it was a different world, Rowena. The norms were different then than they are now.
And at least you faced the person you were killing.
Yes, exactly. You cannot judge 200 years ago by today's standards because the world was a different place.
I want everybody to put themselves in my position. How do I say to a 22-year-old, I'm sorry,
I don't have food.
You cannot have food today because your forefathers lived in apartheid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are being punished. Your parents will not find work because their forefathers lived in apartheid. You will not be able to be educated. You will not be able to go to school and have school shoes and have a future because of your forefathers. Is that right?
Because your forefathers did what came naturally. Found a land that was uninhabited as far as they could see, and they found a place where they could settle.
And made it the breadbasket of Africa.
Yes.
What used to be called the breadbasket of Africa has become the empty basket of Africa.
Nigeria has taken us over in economic, you know.
Yes.
Nigeria.
A lady called Shirley is asking, are there any food banks in South Africa? No.
For black, yes.
For the black people, yes. For white people, no.
No.
And Danny, yes, that's the problem. White genocide is happening all over the world.
Yes.
They're using these countries that are not exactly in the center of where everything is happening as their experiment baskets.
Yeah.
And back in 1994, when they managed to get South Africa handed over to a people who are a despotic race of people who only care about themselves. They wouldn't give food to their own children if they could get away with it.
Do you know what my true feeling is about this whole scenario? Is South Africa is a very, very mineral rich country.
Yeah,
okay?
What's happening
and
to
everybody sitting on the sidelines, waiting for everything to fall apart so that they can swoop in and
take it
even further.
What about the uranium in South Africa?
That's been sold to Russia. The uranium.
And because you know that South Africa actually invented the process of mining uranium.
Yeah.
And it's been sold to Russia, and now everybody's sitting, waiting at bated breath for the nuclear power station that they want to build here with Russia.
6 of them. 6 of them.
6 of them, yeah.
So that they can do the same to Southern Africa as they did to
Fukushima.
Oh no, the place in Russia.
Chernobyl.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the one nuclear power station we have in South Africa? They have now finally admitted it's leaking into the ocean. They finally admitted,
just like the Japanese one.
Yeah,
so they're destroying the seas.
Yes, but now they want to put in 6 more of them. And if you think the Russians are going to let the blacks either build or run them, you have I've got a bridge to sell you in the middle of the desert, I'm telling you, because they are going to bring in their own people to do it. And
of course.
Exactly.
Really think that
where are they going to use South Africans to go and work at these places at the nuclear? They're not, like, these people can't count.
Yeah, and Shirley, you're right. All these presidents from these countries that are in such deep shit, to put it bluntly, they send their children to these schools here in Britain, so that they can get an education. And then their own people are told, burn down the white man's school. Don't take education from the white man, because if you keep them ignorant, you have cannon fodder. And that's all they look on their own people as, cannon fodder.
We have in some of the rural areas, we have 100% black attendance at schools. Okay, so they are angry with the municipality, so they go and burn down their own children's schools. There's not one white child in that school.
Yes.
Not one. They go and burn down their own schools, their own children's schools.
But at the beginning of the school year, they had burnt 3 schools down, 3 rural schools down at the end of the last year. So this year, when school started, those 3 schools had not been rebuilt. So what did they do? They burnt another 3 schools because we hadn't rebuilt the 3 that they burnt last year.
And this is what used to happen during the era of apartheid. They would burn down the schools, and we would rebuild them on white taxpayer money.
Yes.
And they would burn them down again.
Yes, and the universities and everything.
I mean, now they're moaning about public transport. So what is their how do they resolve this? They burn the public transport down.
Burn the trains, burn the buses, and now they're taking pickaxes and digging up the tarred roads in the middle of town with pickaxes.
Jason is asking, are there religious tensions in South Africa? Or are Christians being persecuted, or is it solely a land issue? It's a race issue.
Well, everybody that's here now with me saying that they feel that it's a race issue. There are many black people that do practice the Christian faith, but also on the other hand, they have their sangomas, their traditional healers. So it's a difficult thing, but for us living in South Africa, it's more of a race thing than a Christian or a faith-based
persecution.
Yes.
Somebody asked, what about having seeds sent? Would that help? I don't think
anything to South Africa.
To send seeds.
You can't send anything to South
No,
Africa.
you can't, because as charity like ours, for example, if somebody got a container together and sent us tons and tons of clothing, well, when we wanted to have the clothing released, they wanted us to pay 70,000 rand for import taxes so that we could get the clothing. So I looked at that and I said, well, first of all, we don't even get that in a year, and then
£4,000.
why are we being taxed because we are a charity? And so it went to the blacks because we could not afford to release the container. And I with the funding that we did have, we rather bought food and try and support the families that we have on hand.
But
that's what we don't get. Our postal system is up to who knows what. It's so corrupt. If you are lucky, if you can get a letter in the mail with the post office, let alone a package, it will never arrive. Or if you do get it, something else would be in its place in the box, or completely damaged, unusable.
Yeah, I've actually heard that
If you're
happening and
very
seen that
lucky that
happening.
you do actually get the package.
Mm.
You
Um, do you? Where's this? Are the water taps broken? And if so, why are they broken? Shirley's asking. I think it's a matter of making sure you have water taps put in, but then you've got to have water for the taps.
Exactly.
Piping.
The taps get stolen and they get sold to scrapyards. So the municipalities have to put in plastic taps.
Because I know at one stage they were stealing the copper from the wires and the roofs.
Oh, that is still happening. You will wake up one morning. They actually take a vehicle and they will take the electricity cable from the pole and they will just rip it. They'll tie it to the truck and they will rip kilometers and kilometers off of the cable, roll it up, and they'll be gone. And yeah, so the illegal electricity connections, it's terrible.
And the police are actually helping them steal the cables.
I've seen that. I've
Yeah.
seen that.
Yeah.
And I've seen where they have these, say, for example, a Coke van or a beer van breaks down on the road. That's it. You've lost a whole consignment.
But because they will take everything. Everything.
A truck driver alive in his truck. They robbed the truck and set it alight with him tied up in the front seat and burnt him alive. So nothing is safe. Absolutely nothing. And we've tried every single possible way we can to get help to the white camps in South Africa. But if you can't post it, you can't send it by container. What are you going to do other than send them money?
And hope that they can find a way of using the money that you've sent.
Yes.
On the description on the YouTube channel, I have linked the where you can give donations to the South African Family Relief Project. There's an email that you can donate to via PayPal, and underneath it there's an account or for their bank that they use. If people can donate, it means that Lee can help people by giving them food, by giving them blankets, by helping them, to stay slightly warm. In South Africa, people say, "Oh, you don't have snow." The winters in South Africa are bitter, to put it mildly. They make the winter we've just had in England a laughable matter. It's not cold this winter.
Because the wind is so icy. Especially
how
where we are.
how
There
are
are
the
hardly any trees. So the wind is really, really cold.
yeah. So in winter, when you're living in a tin shanty, that thing is freezing. In summer, it is so hot that it's like living in an oven. You can cook on the metal.
Yeah.
Vicky is asking, is it only the whites getting problems in South Africa, or the mixed race people as well?
Yes, they are an equal minority, and the Khoi San as well. Now, both lots have been treated very, very badly by the black government. They are in direst poverty. They are struggling terribly. I'm in contact with the king of the Khoi San frequently.
He's actually recently said that he wants to put in a claim.
Or
South Africa. He maintains it belongs to him. The Cape area belongs to them.
they have already seceded the thing. I went with him to the United Nations last year to put our claim in. But unfortunately, the minute we came back, 4 other groups claimed the same area. So now it's just a legal wrangle that is never going to be finished with.
But also the South African government, they don't recognize it whatsoever. They laugh it off. They don't even respond. There is no feedback from them because they think it's a joke. It's an absolute joke to them.
And then you have this whole voting situation where they have a contingent of people that they are sending around the country during the course of a week to vote at every single poll station.
Yeah. And they filled the Western Cape. They bussed in huge amounts of busloads of blacks before the elections.
Yeah, that's why they've won this one. There's no ways the ANC should be back in power.
Well, there's the most amazing little piece. I'd love to read it to you, written by a South African.
Yeah.
He said, an ANC victory in 2019, a quarter of a century after apartheid ended, is actually a great thing for whites. We will no longer have to feel any shame or guilt for apartheid. We will be emotionally free at last. Now, when you see poor blacks with no job, living in shacks in winter, lying 3 in a hospital bed, we can say, this is what people want. They are happy. Today, we are absolved from any fault or white guilt. It feels great. And that is the white reaction to the ANC. And
we weren't very optimistic in the first place.
No,
we knew that the ANC was going to win regardless. It was just
what is how do you explain the mentality behind the people who are going to vote for the people who have put them in the shit that they're now in?
Because they still believe that the promises they waited for their T-shirt, their cap, and the KFC meal.
And their KFC, yes. That was it. There is no mentality. That is the 30% pass rate. That is the answer to it. Your people said that just now, Lee, in answer to another question. Well, it is. It's the 30% pass rate. You get into university with a 30% pass rate. So,
okay,
the mentality is
you know what, Rowena? My 2 boys did their matric, and they wanted to go to university. Okay.
Can you introduce yourselves again, ladies?
No,
for the latecomers.
It's Lee speaking.
Ladies, I said.
And Lee, Oxley Dupree from South African Family Relief Project.
There we go.
So my 2 boys did their grade 12, and they did very well, so they wanted to go to university. Weren't given the chance to go to university, so they decided they're going to take a gap year, and they went and did the American GED and SATs, and got they did so well that they were the one was accepted at the Empire State University in New York. My son is now currently studying as an exchange student. He's South African, born South African, studying at the South African University as an exchange student in his own country with the papers that he got from Empire State University.
Did you
so that he could study because he's white.
Do you feel that the situation right now requires boots on the ground, as in military assistance in South Africa?
We should have had that long ago.
Yeah.
Long ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. We have so many white military men that have been in the military, ex-military, that has the know-how. We had one of the best armies in South Africa. Now it's a joke.
They're cleaning rivers.
Yeah.
Of what?
They don't even know how to handle a firearm properly.
They can't march.
How are they going to sort out riots if it happens? Because in apartheid, they used to bring in the military to sort out the faction fights between the different tribes, between the Xhosas and the Zulus and that. And now they won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because we happen to be at Voortrekker Hoogte, Karen, Voortrekker Hoogte, at the military base. We went and visited a friend there. She was moving her house and she donated a lot of the stuff that she had left over in the house. Well, the buildings are falling apart. The barracks, there's a toilet, the windows are non-existent. When my hubby was in the army, it was beautiful.
Immaculate. Immaculate. No, I know, Lee. I know. The point is that the military vehicles are falling apart. The airplanes are falling apart. The Navy said that the reason they got this new submarine was to chase sharks. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That was funny. That was really funny.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous. We have no military. We have no police. So if the people were to riot in masses, nobody could stop them. Nobody could put a stop to it. If they decided that we are going to kill every white within the next 48 hours, there is nobody in South Africa that could or would be interested in putting a stop to it.
Internationally, we should have had intervention long ago.
Yes, but it's not coming.
No.
Yeah, let's not discuss Israel and the fake Palestine here. We are trying to discuss South Africa. If you wish to have another radio show or another show on here where we discuss the points of the fake place calling itself Palestine and Israel, we can do that. But right now, we are trying to get the world to wake up to what is happening in a country that was part of the British Empire at one stage, that the British Empire have totally just chucked aside and said, okay, get on with it, and then proceeded to side with the people who are responsible for the genocide that is happening in South Africa. And yeah, Pitbull, that's what they're hoping for. The mainstream media will not cover anything that has anything to do with proper democracy. And what is happening in South Africa now is not democratic.
No, it's not.
The whites in South Africa.
Do you have state benefits for your hardships in South Africa? No.
No, not for whites.
I think you had to be working for at least, when I was back there, you had to be working for at least a year before you could claim. And then if a year, you got a month's help from the government. That was back in 19...
But Rowena, they can't claim because you have to have a fixed address and proof of residence.
And you can't get that now.
Under a bush, how are you going to give a fixed address? You have to, they have this thing called FICA, financial whatever. You have to prove yourself. So
yeah,
you can't get a bank account without it. You can't get electricity without it. You can't register for school without it. And you definitely can't get government benefits without it if you don't have a fixed address. Which these
you know what? I have, sorry, Corin, I have a couple, Tyron and Miranda. They have the 7-year-old little boy, cutest, brightest little boy. So they go to the school here, and they say that they are living in a shelter. They have to be at school on Monday morning. They will take the child, but they have to bring 700 Rand. Both parents are unemployed. The black children are going to school for free. Okay. Yeah. In South Africa, if your child does not go to school, the parents can go to jail. Where are these parents going to get the 700 Rand from? And they want them to sign an actual document tomorrow morning stating that they are going to pay the 700 Rand. No matter how, by what, I don't know.
The real catch-22, Lee, because you have to go to school and you want the kids to go to school, but they won't accept you without a proof of address or excess money. It doesn't, it's just ridiculous. We're going to have a whole generation of white children who are malnourished, brain dead because they haven't gone to school, and unable to function in life. And it's horrific.
But if it was a black child, they would have waived it. They would have waived the 700 rand.
Of course they would have.
So now I have to make a plan for this child to go to school. And these parents are freaking out because they feel that they are going to be forced tomorrow morning to sign a document that puts them in debt for 700 rand and they are both unemployed.
Yeah.
Where are they going to find the money from?
Yeah,
Because none of us have that. And this little boy is so clever at school, and it's so heartbreaking to know that he's going to be discriminated against, because what they do is they pull the child in front of the class and say, your parent didn't pay your school fee. So you can go and sit in the back of the class.
The fact that not one other parent in the entire class who are all black has paid a cent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Required to.
So even though they have made it impossible for a white person to get a job, they know the white people are still the few paying the taxes in the country, trying to support the majority who are refusing to work because they believe that they are owed everything they want.
Soweto is still getting free electricity because Mandela said free electricity. So they are sitting with a bill. I don't know, Karen, do you perhaps know?
870 billion.
870 billion they owe Eskom.
Yeah.
But because Nelson Mandela said they don't have to pay, they don't have to pay. But
so they get it free, but white people have to still pay to have some form of electricity. That's just appalling.
Yes.
And Vicky, that's what we were saying earlier on, is that sadly, these people in South Africa cannot leave. When you are getting 20 plus rand to a pound, they can't come. They can't get out of the country. Not only can they not get out of the country, no country wants them because they are white. The only people being given refuge, if you want to call it refuge, in European countries are non-whites, are people who are of black persuasion. And this is wrong. They have Africa, which is the most
rich
country in the world if it is managed properly. Russia said they'd take some, but you still need money.
A lot of money.
And the only people that Russia's interested in are the farmers. Now, consider the fact that to go to Russia, those farmers have to learn to speak Russian. Is that fair to ask a 70-year-old man to learn to speak Russian at that age?
Rowena, 51 families went, and I've been in touch with 2 families that have come back because they cannot. They cannot do it. They can't read the Cyrillic writing. They can't speak the language. They just could not do it. So I don't know. Australia has used them as a political football. I mean, Senator Anning really has good intentions, but he's being shouted down by everybody.
Yeah.
Hungary was willing to negotiate taking some of them. I was in on those negotiations, but then they closed their borders entirely and said, we are not taking refugees. So they can hardly now turn around to the EU and say, but we're taking white South Africans.
Yeah, we're not taking refugees in Australia, but we will help ourselves. We will allow all the Muslims in that want to come in.
Yes. So I'm afraid we are at a stalemate everywhere. And I don't know what the answer is.
Because any country, Danny, if countries welcomed the white South Africans, you would have a workforce.
Yes.
South Africans don't want to sponge. They don't want to come and be put straight onto the dole.
No.
They want to come and...
We're already used to try and survive without any government assistance because we don't get it. And I think we are trying to succeed. You know, we do fail here and there, but for the most part is that we used to not living on handouts, you know. So now it's getting more and more difficult because, you know, you can't find employment, you're not getting government assistance. So who else can you depend on, you know, but the international community? But for the most part, if we have jobs, we look after our families, we support our families, and we grow. But we are being our knees and hands and feet are being cut off, and we can't do anything.
Yeah, that's surely we do. We have boatloads of people claiming to be refugees, not refugees, arriving straight into Dover. And yes, here have a house, here have a TV, we'll fully furnish the house for you. But they won't do the same thing to help people who are really in danger.
No. But I think, Rowena, what people don't understand is that to be a refugee, either the United Nations or Amnesty International have to designate you as such. So until either of those places designate white South Africans as refugees,
which they won't do.
No, they won't do it. No country is under an obligation to help them.
Yeah.
And I don't know where one goes from here. I really don't.
You know, I mean, they, at least if we had people from South Africa coming to America, coming to the UK, they're coming to a country where they speak the language.
Yes.
Because every single Afrikaner is bilingual.
Yeah.
They speak Afrikaans, which is a form of Dutch. And so they could get on in Holland as well. They could get on in Germany. They could get on in Belgium. All of these countries are refusing to accept them.
Yeah. Yeah. We have
but they're welcoming in a people who openly state that their decision is to come here to destroy what they're coming into. The people that are being welcomed into Western countries refuse openly to assimilate and work with the people they're coming with. They just come to take over and to change. And that's the wrong thing. That's why democracy is dying. Because people are allowing it by refusing to wake up and stand up together and say, no, these people. And to be a refugee, in the refugee status thing, it says the first safe country you come to, which doesn't mean that you travel across the whole of Europe to get to a country that will give you handouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because you are a refugee, it should not stop you from going out and actually working.
Yeah.
You're not disabled simply because you cannot speak English. You can volunteer to clean the public toilets, to have some pride, to get something to pay back the country that is giving you succor. And the South African people would be prepared to do that. But they're not given the chance.
No.
The UN is an Islamic foundation that is doing nothing for South Africa.
The
Nothing
United Nations is an absolute laugh because we've had so many people from so many organizations from South Africa go with pages and pages and pages of the actual deaths that have taken place in South Africa. They just don't care.
No,
they couldn't be bothered. They don't care.
We delivered to them, Lee, a 650-page typed document with verified white murders. And the response to that? Crickets. So I don't know. We've contacted politicians. We've had writing campaigns. We've had postcard campaigns. We've had email campaigns. We've had people go to the Congress here. We've had people go to the International Criminal Court. We've had people go to the European Parliament. Shah Granger has been to the British Parliament.
Yeah.
We're a very small group. We all know what each other are doing. We help each other out. And yet not one of us is having a smallest success.
South Africans have tried numerous times to go to the embassies here, and try, and nothing. They don't even want to allow them in. I think 1 or 2 embassies, just allowed them to hand over the transcripts, but the rest, you can't even get onto the entrance, into the entrance.
No,
The security guards stop you.
Yeah. They nobody.
And they also refuse to acknowledge the receipt of the document.
Yes, I know. I've done that. Been there.
Which means that the world is quite content to watch an entire group of people be wiped off the face of the earth.
Yes.
And unless we can keep trying to do these shows to get people to actually slowly start to wake up and to spread the word to others around them, this is our only hope, is to try and help these people by making the world wake up to what's happening. It's just so sad that we have to pray for a people who have done nothing wrong, that have never lifted their hand in anger to a black person in their lives.
No. They just had the misfortune to be born white. That is their entire criminal offense.
No, but as I said, if you go to the description on Wake Up UK, or Echo, if you go to the description on the live stream from Wake Up UK, there is a link there that you can use to make donations, which will be gratefully received. Lee is only one of the people who is got a farm set up, or she's using her small holding to try and home and house people. But there are other people as well. Next time maybe I should try and get hold of a couple of the other farms. I'm trying to think who that other guy is, Lee. He said that the two of you worked together at one stage.
I'm not sure. I deal with
Munseyville.
Yeah,
terrible.
I deal with so many people. I know Philadelphia Ark. He houses 500. Close to 500 people. Dirk, and I can tell you that man is absolutely amazing. He does a heck of a lot. One of the most wonderful men that has been working tirelessly. Janse van Rensburg, I think it's Hans van Janse van Rensburg, passed away from Dolos this week. It's a very sad time. He's been absolutely amazing in helping our people. There are so many different people that have really, really done amazing work. So it's and we are basically all in the same position,
Yeah, everybody.
For every one person you help, there are so many others that you are not able to help.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't get a message on my phone or an email of families begging me to take them in. I would love to build more houses so that I can accommodate more people. They are so desperate that they are willing to come and live in tents. And I can't let them live in tents. The municipality is going to fight with me, and I cannot in good conscience put these people in tents on this property. So I have to try and raise money so that I can buy more
things to build a just a basic room,
so that I can build more houses and house these people. And we focus on families, mum, dad, and children, and it's so difficult. So many children that I know don't have a place to sleep tonight. They're sleeping in their cars or between buildings. Winter is here. And I would love to accommodate more people. And we've had some amazing success stories with some of our families. And I can't do this alone. We are absolutely exhausted. Karen has been trying so hard to try and get funds in for us so that we can further our project. But
And your project, the funds that you get, is it only for food, or are you talking about getting clay, bricks, things to just build? Are your houses that you built one room, or are they?
Yes, at the moment it's a one room houses. It's a 3 meter by 6 meter plus a 2 meter porch, and then we have an extra ablution block where they have the toilets and the showers, the men's and the ladies, and then we have an outside kitchen. We have a dining hall area, and so yeah. But we are getting in so little that all we can cover is basic food needs, and nappies and formula.
Are you still using disposable nappies, or have you gone back to the old-fashioned nappies now?
Well, most of the mums have gone back to the old-fashioned way of using the towel nappies, but
Yeah.
you know, they have to wash by hand, and it's difficult. Winter is coming. We cannot stoke the donkey for hot water every day to do washing, so it's cold water. It's really hard living. Like I said, we don't have electricity. Our solar power that we do have, we had a huge hailstorm and our solar panels were damaged. 2 solar panels were damaged by the hail and shorted out 2 of our batteries. So we are on very limited power. We cook on gas, and when the gas is finished and there's no money, then we have to cook on fire. So my husband and I have learned, and we teach the folks how to cook a proper meal on the fire. But when it rains or when it's cold, um, it's extremes that we live with. And sometimes there's no wood to stoke the donkey, which heats up the water so that the children can bath and shower. It's not an easy life. The other day, I had to go and slaughter 3 of our chickens so that I can have food to feed everybody.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
So what about getting live chickens on the farm? And
we do have that exactly for that purpose, so that if we run out of food, I can at least feed. We do have a cow, so we milk every day, and we bake our own bread. We get eggs from the chickens. So our weather has been really extreme.
How
our
many?
tunnel was destroyed, so we're actually trying to look at another way of protecting our vegetable garden. So we're going to go over to a shadow netting that is stronger with the hailstorms that we've been having.
How many white people do you think are actually in this situation, having to live like this in South Africa now?
Living under the breadline, I would say around 1 million, just under 1 million. That is my honest to God belief. I cannot see that less are living. It's an absolute myth that the majority of white people are living like kings. We are not rich. Even when I was a child, I remember going to school without shoes because my parents could not afford it. We went without meals because my parents could not afford it.
Yeah.
So it's a myth that everybody is rich and that we own everything, and it's nonsense, absolute nonsense.
Vince says the white people who migrated to South Africa brought the country into the modern civilized world, and now the black people in South Africa are destroying the civilization that they were given. True, false?
Absolutely true. I mean, we can just look at our economy from 1994 up until now. Petrol price, inflation, food prices, the rand dollar, rand pound, rand euro exchange rate. The cost of living is so high. It's gone through the roof. I mean, we can't afford food.
You know, it's the same thing. The ANC is the current government, has been the government since 1994. Nobody is allowed to oppose it, and they jail and disappear people who do oppose it. The ANC is the African National Congress. It is a socialist government. It is basically the idea that was brought into being by Nelson Mandela. For some unknown reason, he decided he hated the white people who had educated him. And he went to the Russian style of, oh, that's the way to go, where he thought everyone was equal. But everyone is not equal, and no way will anybody ever be equal. Because
So,
you always...
Rowena, is there no white political party to challenge the ANC?
Not anymore.
Is that not a possibility?
We are so few that even if we all voted for the same party, we would never be able to win.
You wouldn't have a voice.
No.
You still wouldn't have a voice. Because
Yeah,
3 million votes is not enough to get you a seat in parliament.
Yeah. When you're voting against 19 tribes and 20 million people?
Yeah. You just can't. In this election that happened this week, there were about 20 parties. And there were 3 or 4 that got good votes, and the rest have to return their deposits. You pay a deposit of 200,000 rand in order to be on the ballot, and they have to return it because they didn't get enough votes to justify their existence. So the EFF, which is the Economic Freedom Fighters under Malema, the ANC under Ramaphosa, the Vryheidsfront gained a couple of seats. Now that is a white party, but they are interracial party. They gained a couple of seats. Other than that, the DA, the Democratic Alliance, who is now aligned with the ANC, they used to be the progressive white party.
White.
What happened to the white party? Because we had 2 parties in South Africa. There was the United Party, I think.
It became the DA.
And then there was the other one.
The NP.
Was it NP?
Yes.
Yeah. That was the one that not for vote. Yes, it was. He was part of it.
Yes. The United Party became the DA. And they are very, very strong in the Western Cape. But other than that, not very much. And they lost seats this election, didn't they?
Well, it's just like here in the UK.
Yeah.
The only Democratic Party we've got has lost seats in the UK as well.
Anymore either.
But the DA stands solely, they stand behind the ANC when it comes to the Land Expropriation Act without compensation.
Absolutely.
That's wrong.
Well, they do. And they stand firmly behind broad-based black economic empowerment
as well.
They approve of it thoroughly. So I'm afraid they have gone far left from their original roots. And so there is no real white interest party at all. Not at all, because they won't.
What about the EEF? The EFF rather?
EFF, they gained a lot of seats in this election.
That's very scary.
They are dangerous. I mean, they're the ones who want to completely and utterly wipe the white people off the face of the earth.
Yes.
Exactly.
They gained seats, and now they're talking about aligning and joining with the ANC, which will give them more than 66% in parliament, which means that they can change anything they want without a single other vote.
Yeah. And become like Zimbabwe became, a dictatorship.
Exactly. Well, we are, aren't we? I mean, we
are. It is a dictatorship, and every single country in the world seems to be being taken over by dictators.
Yep. Yeah, it's very sad. These elections were such a apart from being a farce, they were scary because the very same people who are burning trains, buses, schools, universities, digging up the streets because the ANC is not delivering what they promised, they went and voted for them again. So it's a horrific situation.
Lee, is there any way we can get you some more data?
I don't know. Unfortunately, mine is running out very fast. I'm low at the moment, so.
Oh dear.
I'm surprised it lasted this longly.
It has lasted very well. I mean, we've been going, I think, nearly 2 hours now.
It's just over 2 hours.
Yeah, so that's not bad. That's a very good show we've had. To your guests, to Colin and Rika, Tracy and Hans, Rochelle and Louis, and there was another couple that came in very briefly. Thank you so much for joining us. This show will be on Wake Up UK, so you can basically rewatch it slower at your own pace at a later stage if you wish to, which means you can sort of switch the video off when you run out of data and then start again. That's horrible to have to be like that. Can you imagine living like that in Britain, where you had to panic constantly about how much data you had on your telephone?
That's nothing. We sit in the dark when we speak to you. There's
I
no
mean, how
light.
charming. No lights.
No.
And
we've
here
been
we are
in the
sitting with
dark.
lights on, and that's embarrassing. I'm so sorry. It feels, it's terrible. It just feels so wrong.
Yeah, it does. Because we can now go and have our supper, and they can't.
Yeah. We can go and pop something in the oven or put the kettle on, but in South Africa, you cannot.
It really
You have to go and start a fire up outside.
Yes. If you have any food to cook.
Yeah, if you have any food to be able to cook for the people, you have to do it over a barbecue. I mean, okay.
We used to love coffee, but we don't know what coffee is anymore. Tea is much cheaper, so
yeah.
We haven't had coffee in quite a while because it's too expensive to buy.
To everyone who's on here, please consider donating via PayPal or via the bank account that they do have. Lee will not misuse that money. That money will go to helping a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, you can get coffee from Uganda. No, they can't. That's a sad thing. It's been able to afford to buy it.
Yes.
And coffee, when it's becoming the most expensive thing. I can't remember when I was young, a South African house that did not have coffee in it.
Yeah.
I was completely out. I was completely 1 in 1,000 in being that I couldn't stand coffee. I mean, it was like, what? People would look at me as I was insane.
Well, that's it. And like you said, it's a South African
Yes,
thing.
packages do go missing. You'd have to try and get somebody who was going over to South Africa to take it with them and hope that it wasn't confiscated
At customs.
at customs on the way in.
I sent stuff to South Africa fully, and it was confiscated at customs. So we have tried everything. Believe me, I've been doing this for 10 years, and so has Lee. We've tried everything, and every door gets slammed in our faces.
The best one that has worked thus far is if somebody comes to South Africa and brings it in themselves as their own luggage or whatever, and comes and visits us, because other than that, we are pretty much on our own.
Yep.
You know, it is horrific. No, they're not on the list for the EU at the moment. At the moment, the EU is concentrating on colonizing the whole of Northern Africa. And we have a fight going on between a few sets of elitists. The church is not interested either.
No.
The Roman Catholic Church would rather spend its funds on getting the one world religion into place. which is what they're doing. The Roman Catholic Church won't even pay out of their astronomical profits. They won't even pay for the repairs to. I've gone blank. Oh my God, this is embarrassing.
Notre Dame.
To Notre Dame. Thank you. That's old age creeping up. That's it.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you before everything died.
Thank you so much
you
for
so,
talking
so
to
much.
us, all of you.
Thank you so much for having us. I sent
Gomez
my
says,
folks
can
to
we
bed.
send? Can people try and send you vegetable seeds?
No,
They can try, but I don't think we're going to get it. And seeds are very difficult at customs because they don't really allow seeds from other countries unless it's been treated and whatnot. So the chances of us actually getting it
are very minimal.
Slim. Yeah.
Because like I would say like Australia and New Zealand, they don't want foreign seeds in the country.
Exactly. And the same is with South Africa, especially because we've got the wildlife and the indigenous trees that and forage that we do have, or vegetation that we do have. It is a dangerous thing to send. So our customs is very wake up when it comes to things like that.
Remember, even by putting in £10, that equals
a week food for a family.
Yeah, that would equal quite a lot of money.
Well, no, I'm talking dollars now, but yes, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It can
£10. With £10, I can feed a family for 5 days.
That's £10 is 185 rand, and that
with
would help.
185 rand, I can buy a 5 kilo of maize meal, a pack of rice, and some soya, and we can feed a family for 5 days with £10.
Yeah. That's actually a good idea.
Think that they cannot, if they cannot donate smaller amounts. Let me tell you, those smaller amounts are keeping us alive.
And there are people in the world who do care about you, Lee. And we are going to try our damnedest to keep the few of you that we can keep alive. We will do our damnedest to do so.
Thank you.
So just know that there are people, and slowly we are trying to waken the people of the world up. So I would like to say thank you to everybody who has joined us this evening, the people who have listened in. The links are on the description for Wake Up UK on this video. I will link it to you directly, Vince. So please, people, do try to keep this alive. Try and push this to show other people what is happening in South Africa, how desperate these people are for any form of assistance. And £10 is not much for a British person. I mean, that's not even going to buy you a packet of cigarettes. So why not give somebody else a meal? In fact, why not give 5 people a meal for a whole week? There we go. I just sent Vince a link to it as well. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And we've been going quite a while, so this is not bad. I will try and set up, if people are interested, we can try and see when Jason has another time that he can set up for us to do another show. And we can have Lee come back. We can try and get in a couple of other people. Like there's a pastor in South Africa who knows a lot about what's happening. There is a author who was on the last show, Kuan Elgin, who wrote the most amazing book, which I've read now, and I think you should all try and, yes, there is a Facebook page. Let me have a look. South. I will link you the page in a second. copy. Actually, I think if you look on that page, I think it gives the links as well to
Facebook. It does, but on Facebook there are South African Family Relief Project.
Yeah, there are other family relief projects as well. There's about 3 or 4, I think, on Facebook at least. But this one is the one that Lee is running, the South African Family Relief Project. So I've given a link there. Credit cards, you can use a credit card. No, she doesn't have a GoFundMe. Karen.
No, down. We had a GoFundMe a couple of years back, and there was a group here in America that had them taken down because they said there's absolutely nothing going on with the whites in South Africa. We are scammers. So they took our page down.
Oh, see, so that one squishes the idea.
Yeah, I'm afraid it didn't work.
Yeah, we do have the PayPal link, which if you use if I'll copy that will go to them. So any donations that you can give to help Lee, to help the people that she is trying to help, really would be amazing.
And Rowena, I'd like to tell your audience something about Lee.
Yes.
They do not have a house on that farm. They sleep in the office on the farm. It is a tiny, tiny little space. They sleep on a blow-up mattress in the office because they believe that every spare inch of space must go to save others. So they do not even have a place where they can store their clothes, where they can get away from the stress of all of this, just her and her husband. They don't have an inch of their own. That is how incredibly heroic Lee and her husband are.
Wow.
And they'll never tell you that, so I'm telling you.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually, and I've known Lee for a few years, and I never knew that.
I'm trying to raise the money to get a house for Lee and her husband, but I know they won't.
Yeah.
They'll build.
They won't. They'll build.
Yeah, they do not. They do not use
any of the money.
I asked her husband, what should I give Lee for her birthday? He said she needs a pair of shoes. Her shoes are worn out. I cried, Rena. I cried.
I will pass it on to Lee. Jason says we should have a look at donorbox.org. So we can have a look at that and see what that would do. But Lee's minutes have finished now.
Yeah, she's gone.
She's gone, unfortunately. So
for the next week, unless she has a miracle happen, she cannot even run the charity because everything is done via her phone. Everything. So they are in a very, very bad situation.
Yeah. I've sent you the link as well, Karen. Maybe you could have a look into it.
I will.
So thank you so much, everyone. If we set up a GoFundMe over here, we can then send it via PayPal or direct. I could set up you'd like to donate a website. Oh, that would be amazing, Jason. Oh, they've got a website?
They've got a website. We donated it. My daughter and I set it up and donated it to them. We host and pay the fees every year.
Oh, have you got the website that you can give?
Hang on a minute.
I really do think, Anna says, stop donating to the blacks. Yes, and start donating for the white people who are actually the oppressed now.
The website is S for sugar, A, F for
Fred. Go Mad, we spoke about the seed bank. We cannot send seeds because the government would take the seeds and destroy them.
Yeah.
You can't, all countries have decided that bringing in foreign seeds means you could overwrite the current stuff that is growing in the country. Food parcels would go missing. The postal service is absolutely abysmal. I sent a parcel that cost me £500 to send, and there was over £1,000 in the parcel, and it disappeared. So parcels and that. The only thing that is getting through now is PayPal. So as Lee has a PayPal set up, we could use that PayPal to send the money that way. Most of the stuff being sent is being stopped at the borders. You are so lucky if anything gets through. And this is just so sad. Emma Thompson should be utterly ashamed of herself. She's prepared to fly millions of miles or thousands of miles, spewing oxidants into the atmosphere to lay a claim for, the climate change. But she won't stand up for people. She's a complete hypocrite. And so is, oh gosh, Karen, what's that woman's name?
Charlize Theron.
Yeah, Charlize Theron. Yeah, here we go. That's the PayPal donation that you can pay to. And then once you've donated, you just send a quick short email to donate. And I've given that link as well. And they won't get into that. I think that the money that we've managed to send to Lee has gone through. And as she said, celebrities are only there for themselves. The only time they do anything is, oh, look, I've adopted a poor little black baby. Who? Sorry, swearing again. It's just above, and I've sent it to you on chat, Vince, in Messenger. So we don't see any direct and immediate solution to what is happening in South Africa. We can only try to wake more people up and bring it to the notice of as many people as possible who we hope will also send it on or show it on to others so that they can see what South Africans are going through. To cry because of 10 quid. Come on, people. That woman was in tears now at the thought of receiving money that would enable her to feed 5 families for a week. And that's what 10 quid would do. It's not much money out of it's a couple of beers. It's a pack of cigarettes. And it would help so many other people. I don't think any of you can begrudge that to a person who is desperately in need of help. A country that went from being a first world civilization that is in the space of 20 years slid back into the dark ages because of the liberal left who stand and scream and shout about how much white people owe everyone else. We don't owe anybody anything. We are not part of the past. And if people go back far enough to where slavery began with black tribes conquering black tribes and taking prisoners. And then you had a choice: be a slave or be eaten. You lost all rights to be a human being when you were conquered, part of a tribe that had been conquered. Yeah, but none of these people are interested in helping other white people. And there are South Africans here in the UK who are trying to help. We have to find a way to either be able to get all these people out. Bob Geldof is not interested unless it's fake Palestine.
Bob Geldof was one of the ones who we won't play Sun City because they're so wicked in South Africa. He was one of the promoters of that whole anti-white movement in South Africa.
Yeah.
So no, he's not going to help.
You know, we have to get this noticed. And I made a presentation up that is about, it's just the bare knuckles of what's happening in South Africa. And I would like to try and get that propagated as well. Because the more people who see what is happening in South Africa, the better. Because I do have a channel under Rowena Cranmer on YouTube. If you go to my channel, I've started putting presentations that I've done up. Because we need to wake people up to everything bad that is happening on this earth. If we wish this earth to survive. This is the video that is all large charities are corrupt. Nothing goes out of a large charity from the money that is donated to a large charity until the people at the top have taken their cut first. And their cut is anything up to 80% of the money.
Yeah.
That is going into any form of charity.
Yeah.
Do you think that poor little starving black child that they show you this picture of, weeping child standing with a big pot belly and skinny little legs, do you think he gets any money? He gets none of that money.
Mm-hmm.
They're not interested in it. They're all interested in themselves. It's how much can I take from the idiot in the street? And it has to be the people in Britain and in all these other countries who wake up to the fact that the indigenous populations of all these countries are being replaced by the New World Order. This needs action. And at the moment, our only form of action is to try and help them. And where £10 is maybe a box of cigarettes, exactly, Danny, of every £200 we put into charities, £2 goes to the people that are in need of that money.
Yeah.
The rest goes to the people at the top.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it is a shocker. It's not nice to know that this is the truth of life as we know it today. And where people in the past would give money and you would know that the money was going to those who helped or who needed the help, that is no longer the case.
No.
The only time a politician will put his face to something is if he stands to gain something from putting his face there.
Uh-huh.
And so we have to try and do this ourselves to help these people. And so I thank you all for joining us tonight. It's a very somber note on which to finish an evening off. But we don't really know what to do. This is a horrible way to have to accept that this is what civilization has brought. A degeneration back into the dark ages. Simply because people want to stay blind. And it can no longer be. As long as I have a life of peace and quiet, I don't care about everyone else. It's going to hit you all.
Mm-hmm.
If not you, your children. And only by saving the children and waking the children up to this crap can we hope to have any chance? You know, it's the most terrible way to actually have to know that this is what our society has come to. The me attitude of everyone around us. But thank you to all of you who have joined us. Thank you to those of you who are waking up. And thank you to everyone who helps, even just one group who will put every penny of that money into helping the people who need it. Godspeed, everyone. And as they say in Star Wars, may the 4th be with you. Sorry, I was trying to laugh. May please stay safe, everyone, and know that people out here are trying to make a difference. We just all need to wake more people up. So with that, I will say good night to everyone. Thanks so much for hosting this, Jason.
Thanks, Rowena. And
Thank you, Jason.
let me know anytime you want to come back on. Let me know, and we'll find a space for you, and we'll get you back on.
Okie dokie.
No.
Thanks so much. And as I said, thanks to everyone. Good night. Go and have a good night's rest.
Cheers.
So, night.